Okay. So for drafting, there are a few things to keep in mind. Obviously, you want a balanced team comp. First of all, in terms of physical damage and magical damage, because if you pick too much of either one, then it's easy to counter build for the enemy, and then your team comp will be less effective immediately. um, if you have 3-2, like 3 physical, 2 magical, it's generally not as good as 2-3. Yes, I'm recording. It's generally not as good as 2-3, 2 physical, 3 magical, because you because all the towers, all the phoenixes, and all the titan and a cold fury as well, fire giant depending on the attack as well, deals physical damage. So the more physical damage you have in your team comp, the team is gonna counter build with protections, and they're gonna counter build your structures and objectives as well. Whereas if you have more magical damage, then you can, like, if they build more magical defense, then you don't have protection against towers and objectives, or not as much. You can of course build mostly, like, you can do 4-1 if you know what you're doing. If you just pick the god, like a hunter, ADC, and mage middle, warrior solo, you're gonna have 3 physicals, which is fine. But you can, of course, also pick more physical, or more magical, rather. So that's the first thing to keep in mind, balancing out your damage types. The second thing to keep in mind is just pick what is strong for you. Because, for example, right now, Cupid is very strong and Rama is very strong. Those are the 2 best ADCs by far. But there's not really any use in picking Rama if you don't know how to play him properly. Then you're better off playing something else. So, for example, in this game, Rama was banned by PK in the first draft phase, third ban. Qubit is still open, but PK still picked Heimdallr because Zapman is very strong on Heim. And it also has a decent matchup in Qubit early game, while still being a good hunter and being very useful late as well. So you don't lose lane and you have a very strong pick, which is probably Zapman's most comfortable pick. He's been playing it a lot, and he's probably the only guy. Oh no, him and Panda Cat play Heim. Those are the only 2 I think who played in SPL. So they do pick the Heim first, which is not necessary because you don't want. I mean, Sanguine, the ADC for Sanguine Netrioid, doesn't really play Heim. He's more of a Jingwei player. And Jingwei has a good matchup in the Heim. So the reason you would pick Heim first is because you don't want to give away your other picks yet and then show them to the enemy. So pick what is strong for you. Don't, obviously, keep in mind the meta, like very strong picks are always helpful. And it's better to play a strong god than a weak god. But if you don't know how to play them, then not really any point in picking it. Another thing is pick for a strategy, like have a goal in mind with your draft. Don't just, which happens way too often, don't just pick 5 gods because I want to play Heim, so I'm picking Heim. My jungler feels like playing Tsukuyomi, so he's picking Tsukuyomi. My support doesn't want to play meta god, so he's just picking Bacchus. Don't just do that because you feel like it, but do it because you have a goal in mind and you know what you want to achieve. Then the next thing is counter picking. Like I said, you pick Heim first, which is a counter to the strongest ADC left open at the moment, at the time they picked Heim, which is a lot further back, I guess. So in this scenario, at this point, Cupid is still open, and they pick the Heim first. But if they pick Cupid into the Heim, they already have a bit of a deficit, and Netweir doesn't really play Cupid anyway. So you're picking the Heim to counter the strongest open god. It's not a big counter matchup, but it's a decent one. And Heim is very safe, so you're not really giving anything away, and you're not really risking anything with this pick. Actually, I'm gonna open multiple tabs so I can show you. You can see all the tabs, right? You should be able to.
I mean, Sino.
Oh wait, no, it's the other game. This game, I think.
Here's the thing, man.
Wait, what? Oh no, it was this game. I'm an idiot. Okay, so this is another game, Radiance versus Obey. This is game 2 as well. Someone who is a little bit on Hunter matchup. Why does Heim do decent against Cupid? Cupid is not outright gonna lose. But if you have Cupid versus Heim, what Heim can do... Well, first of all, if Cupid goes on him, he can Crystal out. If he ults, Heim just ults out. And you can even ult aggressively if the Cupid is not standing in his ult. So, I'm not gonna draw it because then I have to change the window I'm showing. But let's just, if you imagine a circle, the Cupid ult, with a Heim in the middle. And if Cupid is standing outside of that circle, what Heim can do, and what Heim should do in most cases, is ult out of the circle into the Cupid. So you trade your ult for Cupid's ult and beats. So that's already a counter. Heim is very safe, so he's not really gonna lose ever. If he's in danger, he just teleports out. The biggest key in not losing to Cupid is not standing in the wave, and Heim has this sword thingy, I can't remember the name of it. But he can throw that from a distance, so he's always safe, and there's no reason for him to stand in the wave. Cupids also like to dash in, but if a Cupid dashes in on the Heim, he's gonna use his Gallowhorn or whatever it's called to knock him away and slow him. So, like I said, it's not really like a big counter matchup, but Heim will do fine against Cupid without really having any issues. And Heim is very strong late game for... Like, you can't really go on the Heim as a tank because he's just gonna ult you and then he's gonna ignore you. And then you have a 4v5. I know that is what makes Heim so strong. But, so this game, Radiance versus Obey, is the second game in the set. Radiance first picks Rama, which is, like I said, probably the strongest hunter right now. They banned the Cupid, which means there's not really any strong hunter open at the moment. And then Obey picks Ra and Sobek. Ra, 1, got buffed, and 2, Wolfie really likes it. And they've been playing it a lot. With actual success. It's probably one of the only mid picks they've been positive on. And with that, they pick the Sobek, which is a counter to Ra, so you're taking away the counter. 1. And 2, it's a flex pick, so now Radiance doesn't know is it going to go support, is it going to go solo. So you're also hiding your comp with a flex. Because this might go solo, this might go support. And the key to a flex pick is that also you don't need to know yet. Because Obey can still decide okay, they picked AMC, I'm just gonna put Sobek in dual lane and I'm gonna kill the AMC on cooldown. Or maybe they pick Jingwei and they say, okay, Sobek is never gonna kill the Jingwei anyway, we might as well put him on solo against the more aggressive solo laner where he can just kind of stalemate the lane and not really lose too heavy. So you can still decide later on if you're the one picking the flex pick as well. Does Bobby play Sobek? I think he does. But I mean, I think he does. But even if he doesn't, just ignore that for a second because it's more about the idea I'm trying to explain. Because I know he plays with me a lot. But it's more about, I'm more trying to explain like why a flex pick is strong and what the point is. Then the next point I had on my list, you don't have to apologize, because I think you're right. But anyway, the next point on my list is top priority picks. So like I said, Wama are very strong. The key to a top priority pick and what makes a top priority pick is obviously if something is really OP, you're going to want to pick it as soon as possible because you don't want to give the enemy the chance to pick it. This also gives a bit of an advantage to first pick because you should be forcing the enemy to ban out the high level picks because you have the first option to pick something and they can only pick after you. Second pick has an advantage if there are a lot of topics open, so they can pick 2 while you can only pick 1 as first pick. But I think right now first pick is probably a little bit favored. Then the second to last thing I had was concealing team comps. So this also goes a bit hand in hand with top priority picks because you wanna not show what your idea is too early. Because if you are, let's say, this used to happen a lot, but not so much anymore. Let's say you draft a comp around the Zeus doing infinite damage and killing everyone. You don't want to pick the Zeus first because it's just going to get counterpicked and be useless. But if you are picking other things, like let's say you want to cheese them with Odin, Awilix, and Zeus, maybe you just pick a hunter that's not really relevant, so you pick a Wama first. And then maybe you pick the Odin solo, and then you pick a support that might go well. Maybe you pick a Sobek. And then after that you pick the Odin Zeus combo. While the enemy already has their picks locked in, so they can't counter it as much. I kinda have an example, I thought. Obviously not as extreme. Not this game, I think. Oh, this, yeah. Actually, I think I had a better one. So, for example, let's take this game. If you want to pick, so you pick Heim, Sanguine picks Hebo Cerberus. If at that point your idea is to counter the Hebo with Bacchus jumping in on him, because Bacchus has a very strong matchup into Hebo, because he can't really get away from the Bacchus easily. So if your idea is to counter the Hebo with the Bacchus and just diving him with Set, Cthulhu, and Tsukuyomi, then you don't really wanna pick the Bacchus first, because Bacchus is not that strong. Bacchus can get counterpicked pretty easily by an Awilix or people with a lot of knockup immunity. But if you allow, like if you pick the other gods like Set, Cthulhu, Tsukuyomi in this case, well, Tsukuyomi was picked together with Bacchus, but Set, Cthulhu, and they already have 4 picks by the time you can pick Bacchus. At that point, they have 1 pick left to counterpick. In this case, it's the jungler. But yeah, if you pick the Bacchus second pick, then you're gonna have a lot more counterpicks and your pick is not gonna be as effective. Also, flex picks, again, the enemy, which I should have mentioned. This was actually the game I was referring to, but because I rewound, I couldn't see the picks. This was the game I wanted to use to point out flex picks. So PK picks Heim, Sanguine picks Cerberus and Hebo. Cerberus can go either support or he can go solo. Hebo can go jungle or he can go mid. So the only thing you know right now is they don't have a hunter. They might have a solo, they might have a support, they might have a jungler, they might have a mid laner. So you pick Set Cthulhu. Set can go jungle, Set can go middle. Cthulhu can go support, but most likely is a solo layer. So if you are playing against PK with this comp, you know they have the Heim, obviously ADC. Cthulhu most likely solo, and Set Paul has been playing it, so you can think it's mid, but you're never going to be 100% sure. So again, you only know that they most likely don't have a support, but even that you're not 100% sure on. And then Sanguine picks the Anhur, which is very important. If you are flex picking, you don't want to pick the other god here. So let's say in this game you have Hebo Cerberus. Hebo can go mid and jungle. You don't want to pick your jungler here because then you know guaranteed that the Hebo is going middle. And then you kind of lose the strength of the flex pick. But now Hebo can go mid, Hebo can go jungle, Cerberus can go solo, can go support. And since they pick the Anhur, you still don't know where they're going. And now you have to ban 2 bans. And you don't know where anyone is going. Obviously, Cerberus most likely to go solo, but he's definitely viable in support. But they do need physical damage, so you ban a physical guardian, or a physical support, I should say, not a guardian. And you ban the Erlang Shen, which is a jungler, but can also go support, so you ban a bit of flex as well in your bans. Would you mind doing a quick tier list for the gods you consider priority pick? Not based on comfort, but on the god, on what the god is capable of doing. Sure. I'll just finish my first points, and then I'll do that, and then we'll go over the drafts, and I'll ask you guys some questions. Oops. And the last thing I wanted to point out, I think I have an example of this as well. Yeah, it would be this game. You want to have a threat, or you don't want to, but it can be a good benefit. This is a bit more abstract and a bit more high level. But, so, let's rewind. Radiance picks Rama first pick. Like we said, they pick Sobek Ra. Ra, a very strong god if you don't counter him, but he can definitely be countered. Also, Persephone is still open. Persephone to priority pick. And you pick the Cerberus. Cerberus is a flex pick, like we said. Solo support. And he counters the Ra. So, in a way, Obey baited out the Cerberus. And this is something you can do risk-free High Mystic. Because if they don't counterpick your picks, then by definition you're gonna have a good game, a good draft at least. So they pick Cerberus, you pick Jinwei. Don't show where Sobek is going. Could be solo, could be support. And then they pick Arachne. Arachne has a good matchup in the Cerberus. Sobek has a decent matchup. Jinwei has a good matchup because you can fly out of the ult. So you should never be plucked by the Cerberus. And then you pick the Thor, which is going solo because Ducky plays it. And then you know Sobek is going support. So you don't know. There are 9 gods picked at this point, and you don't know where Sobek is going yet. And you have to pick all 5 of your gods before you even know where he is going. And it's very possible that at this point, even Obey doesn't know where it's going. Because they can still decide based on these 2 picks. Because as Obey, right now, you don't know where Cerberus is going as well. And maybe you want to focus the Cerberus with the Arachne and the Sobek if he's going support. Or maybe they pick something strange, which they don't. But now you see it's a Wukong. So I would say Sobek into Wukong is fine, but you don't really gain anything. But if you put the Sobek against the Cerberus comboed with the Arachne, then you have a lot of kill potential, combined with Wa as well, who can do a lot of damage from range. So now you know Cerberus is going support, and most likely we want to bait. Well, first of all, we kind of baited out a Cerberus pick because it's good against the Wa we picked very early. And two, now we know where it's going, so now we can finish off our comp, put Sobek in support, and put pressure on the Cerberus. I think that's what they did as well. Actually curious. At least they tried, but I don't think it worked. He's 2-2-7. Most deaths on the team. I'll take it as they tried. So I think that was their idea. I'm pretty sure that was their idea in this game. So those are the things to keep in mind. Pick what is strong for you. Pick with a certain idea, like for example, picking a very strong early game comp and snowballing. Maybe something more like this draft, focus on one god, try to shut him down and win a 4v5. Counter picking is very strong. Flex picks are very strong early game because you hide what your idea is and what your draft is. Conceal the team comps. Don't, for example, this game, you wanna, like, let's say the idea is to kill the Cerberus, and you are picking Arachne to kill him on cooldown. You're not gonna pick Arachne immediately where they pick the Jingwei third pick, because that allows the enemy to ban out more gods to save the Cerberus, because at that point it might be obvious that you're focusing the Cerberus down. And then they have more picks to save the Cerberus. The later you wait, the more... Like, the later you wait with a counter pick, the less they can react and try to save the Cerberus in this case. The reason they pick it fourth pick and not last pick is because if you pick it last pick, then you need to decide on the fourth pick where Sobek is going, because you're picking your solo or your support. But at that point, they can still switch the Cerberus to either solo or support where the Sobek is not going, to have a better matchup in whatever lane. So that's why you pick it fourth pick here and then leave the flex with Sobek to last pick.
Hello.
Zyper.
Myself?
Yes. So Aldo asked me to do a tier list with what gods are highest priority picks. So what makes a high priority pick? Obviously something that's very strong. So what can we put? Persephone, where are you? Number 1, always pick Persephone. Always pick Rama. Other gods you can pick, let me scroll through. Yemoja. Also, things that are easily countered, like let's say, where is Ra? Where are you? Am I blind? Oh my god. Oh, there are you. So, Ra. Very strong, but countered. You can first pick Ra because one of his big counters was slowing him down and then just chasing him and killing him. This is not the case anymore, so he is less easily countered. But still, he's not very mobile. He's just fast, but he has no jump, no dash, no nothing. Just a movement speed on his passive. So I would say Rise A tier. In some cases, he might be stronger than Yemoja, but Yemoja is not so easily countered. If you ban things like the Cerberus, like they did here, if those things are not available for whatever reason, maybe you banned them, maybe you know the enemy doesn't play them, then sure, you can pick the Ra first pick, no problem. Cupid, the other very strong hunter together with Rama. Cupid also doesn't really have any bad matchups. He's very strong in lane with good wave clear, not that they buffed the hard bomb. His ult in team fights was always really good. It's just a giant cripple field, slow damage, everything you want. Measure stun, depending on if the passive is stacked. Mystic set Nemesis. Where is Nemesis? Merlin Nemesis. Nemesis is... The issue with Nemesis is she's a tank killer. So if you first pick Nemesis, you just build a more squishy team comp, and then your Nemesis is not as good. She's still very good in the 1v1 with a shield and the auto attack cancels, but that is also something you can anticipate. So Nemesis, maybe like if you pick Cerberus or some Guardian here, and then maybe you can already pick the Nemesis early. Like they pick Cerberus first pick. I don't know why you would do that, but whatever. Let's say they do. Or maybe they pick the Amaterasu first pick. And you know, you've scrimmed these guys a few times. You know their solo laner is really good. The rest of the team is not that great. So you just want to shut down the Amaterasu. Then maybe you can pick Nemesis first pick on the Chaos side team to shut him down more. But Nemesis is more of a counter pick, I would say. Anything else? It's really hard going through all these gods because most of them you'd never want to first pick. Sobek might be good. Sobek is not the strongest god, but he is a good first pick because he can fit into a lot of team comps. It's a flex pick, you can still decide where it goes later. So you're kind of waiting for the opponent and see what they do, and then you're gonna anticipate or react without committing yourself to anything with the Sobek pick because it's still very, very up in the air what you want to do. Cthulhu, A tier. Cthulhu has some counter picks you need to worry about, like Rama, because you build kin size and attack speed and you destroy the Cthulhu. So, Cthulhu A tier, strong god, but some counters you have to worry about. Anyone else? What did they pick? Because actually, yeah, Rama, Heimdall. Yeah, it's basically ADC right now. Wukong, yeah, Wukong is A tier. Because he's, I mean, always fine in lane, basically. Not really gonna do too bad against anyone. The issue with Wukong is you're kind of already picking your solo laner first. Yeah, and it just feels like, I mean, Wukong is decent. I'm gonna put him here. Wukong is decent, but you don't really achieve anything. If you wanna pick a waiting god in the first pick, you just pick Sobek. Hercules, if you can play him, but Mystic said no comfort picks. I'm still gonna put Hercules here because at least here actually. Dude, if you can play Hercules well, he's like over here. But if you can't play him, then he's like over here or over here even. Because Hercules is just so much pressure early game and it's very hard to deal with in the 2v2. Kuzenbo, that's a good shout as well. Where is Kuzenbo? Kuzenbo is... Where are you putting Kuzenbo? No, he's kind of like... I feel like he's better than these gods to first pick, but he's not as good as these. I'm gonna put him here. But he's definitely not as good as Warren Cthulhu. God damn it, stop. Anything else? Hebo... Where is Hebo? Hebo, strong god, a lot of counter picks. The issue with Hebo is that this god counters him, this god kinda counters him, this god kinda counters him. So you're picking the Hebo, and if these gods are not banned, then they're gonna have a good first pick, and they're gonna counter you with the same pick. These are probably the gods you want to first pick most. I'm looking through the list, but I don't really see anything else. I think that's pretty much it. Maybe you pick Cerberus first because it's a flex pick. That's not too bad with matchups. And if they counter pick the Cerberus in solo, you can still put him support, for example. Anything else? In general, like audio is a flex pick, so she's gonna be up there. Oloran used to be good. Oloran is very strong if you can get him to late game, but your D tier, go away. Oloran is very strong if you get him to late game, but if you're gonna first pick an Oloran, you're gonna get counter picked and you're never gonna get to late game. And by the time you get there, the game should be basically over. Oloran is more like, if you're picking him, you're probably picking him over here. He used to be like first pick, but then he got nerfed, and Ring of Hikari got nerfed, and everything got nerfed. So I would say Heim, PK picked Heim. Heim is actually, he's A tier. Very strong ADC. He's very safe, so you're not really too worried in any matchup. Set, actually, yes, Set is a good shout. I think Set is 8 here. Because. Actually, no, he's not 8. If you. I'm gonna put in B tier because all the Set no comfort picks. If you and your team can play Set, he flexes to 4 walls in pro at least. Yeah, that's true. That's the reason why you can pick Set. Because besides support, he can go anywhere. Cyclone plays him ADC as well. So you can pick the Set early. But if you're first picking the Set, then is he really gonna be that good? I feel like I think PK did it right. Yeah, like second, third pick is probably where you want to pick the Set, because at that point you already have 2 picks. Have fun with the CC team when first picking Set. Yeah, exactly. Like if they just pick Kumbhakarna and I don't know, like what hunter would you pick? Like if you just pick CC heavy, like Hoi probably would be good against Set. I haven't tried it, but I would imagine it's good. But if you just counter pick the Set while picking decent gods, then your overall level of your draft is not as strong as if you just pick top priority picks. But you are shutting down one of their picks, so it's a 4v5 with non-optimal. Well, it's not literally 4v5, but you know what I mean. So, like, one of their picks is heavily reduced in effectiveness. And they're not nearly as useful as they could be if you pick them later. Set is more like a counter pick for Chaos Team, where they pick something like a Brahma, and then you just pick Set and whatever you want to pick, and then you just flex Set everywhere. Like you would pick Set and a support or something, and then nobody knows where Set is going yet. That's probably a good, like the ideal place to pick Set. Skadi versus melee attacks with SCC immunity is super fun. I mean, Skadi's might be good, I don't know. I think those are probably the cards you want to first pick. Don't pick audio. Just don't. Don't even pick a lost pick. It's probably not going to be that good. Obviously, you can pick other gods first if you really want. But if you pick any of these, then you'll have a strong start to your draft in general. So now I have 3 drafts. We'll start with this one, PK versus Sanguine. So, what question should I ask? Okay. So, what do you guys think is the idea behind PK's draft? I'll give you some examples of what an idea could be. Snowballing early game is a common idea. Stalemating and having the better late game comp is an idea. Going for objectives is an idea. Diving the enemy backline is an idea. Getting some diving vibes, yeah. And this is probably the most easy one to decipher. Because Set, Cthulhu, Tsukuyomi, Bacchus are all just gonna run at Hebo and Anhur, and maybe Circuit, but definitely Hebo. And Haim is probably the best ADC to survive on his own because of his portals, and because of his ult, just what do you say? Like just banishing one of the tanks, so you don't have to worry about them. And you can portal out and you're gonna be safe. So 10 out of 10 for everyone. The idea is to dive the backline while Haim is pretty safe on his own. That's probably the most obvious draft. What is the idea for Sanguine? What does Sanguine want to achieve? Kinda the same. Maybe. Meta picks with pick combos. Any other suggestions? So Kid and Hebo can avoid a lot of damage. That's also true. They also have the option to get targets killed or stunned who dive him. I think Sanguine, obviously the goal is not as clear as PK's draft, because this is probably the most obvious diving draft you'll ever see. Counter engage, yeah, I think it's more of a counter engage comp. Like Set and Tsukuyomi are jumping in, you're gonna Cerberus ult them. King Arthur is probably gonna go on the Heimdallr to force him out of the fight. Circuit can also CC a target, especially the Set, for a long time trying to save the Hebo. While Anhur can also peel for Hebo and himself. So this is more of a counter engage comp. The Sanguine build around the constant 3v3s they look for all the time. Do they look for the 3v3 all the time, or do they just fight for team fights late game? But the 3v3, oh, that's also something I should have mentioned. And there's another thing I just thought of. I'll write it down, and I'll tell you in a second. Okay. So, yeah, I think Sanguine is more of a counter engage comp, letting the PK draft jump in on them, and then just having an all-out brawl where Cerberus is good at the counter engage because he can ult the people who jump in. Hebo can knock somebody up, and by the time they land, they're probably dead. So engaging on a Hebo in a team fight is pretty difficult if you don't have a lot of CC. Tsukuyomi is probably gonna ult in on the Hebo and get in that way. But when he stops channeling the ult, he needs to be careful for the Anhur as well. And the Circuit has really good peel if she stays with the team. Or she can maybe go with King Arthur and dive the Heim and try to kill the Heim. So Sanguine, more of a counter engage comp. If they pick a lot of bursts to get rid of some of your divers, they can't kill Cthulhu easily. Yeah, I think the main issue looking at the draft is going to be the Cthulhu, because there's not really any good way to destroy the Cthulhu. Like Anhur has some penance build, so it helps shredding tanks, but a steroid hunter with kids is gonna do a lot more. So, what Mystique reminded me of is in your draft, besides looking at the strategy and counter picks and everything else I mentioned, you also need to look at the 3v3 in middle and the pressure you get in side lanes, which is also a reason Rama is so good, because he has pressure against everyone, against except Izanami. But Izanami falls off late game and Rama doesn't, so he's definitely better there. So look at the pressure, because like I said in the lessons for mid, jungle, and ADC, I think it was, if you don't have pressure in duo and you don't have pressure in middle, then it's very easy for the enemy to invade you. If you lose pressure in duo, or you lose pressure in middle rather, but you still have the pressure in duo lane, then if they try to invade the red buff, you still have the possibility to rotate over from duo lane as the ADC to the red buff and help out your mid trio to collapse on the enemy and fight 4v5, which is why you need pressure, at least in some lanes. If you pick a late game comp and you don't have pressure in any lane, then you're just gonna get snowballed. Same goes for getting your blue and back amps invaded on the fire giant side, on the solo lane side. If you lose pressure in solo and you lose pressure in middle, you are gonna have a bad time over there as well. The most important lane to have pressure in is middle, because from middle you can rotate anywhere pretty easily, whereas side lanes only affect their one side. But the issue is, I mean, you can know where you get pressure when you learn in the game, because you know how the lanes are gonna go if you're experienced. But if you make a misplay and you lose pressure in a lane early, then it can definitely hurt you and snowball. If you are in a community league where you might have a lot of people who only have 2 or 3 comfortable picks, should you try to get them first? Are those 2 or 3 comfortable picks gonna get banned? Like, is the comfortable pick a Wama, which is gonna get first pick or banned? Or is the comfortable pick, who would I say? Like a decent hunter. Like a Hachiman. Audio. No, you didn't pick first pick audio. If the enemy team knows you only have, let's say let's say 2, so worst case scenario. Let's say you only have 2 comfortable picks you are comfortable on playing in a scrim or league or whatever. You don't want to first pick it, but if you so let's say you are on Radiance and Aurora can only play audio and can only play Hercules. Hercules already got banned, so you know if you don't pick audio here, they might ban it, and now I can play nothing and I'm gonna lose my SPL game, which is pretty sad. So you want to pick the audio here because it's the only god you can play at this point that is still open. If you have 3 gods and none of them are banned, then you don't need to pick right now. Because they can only ban 2 gods. Well, they might pick it. But, I mean, 2 or 3 picks is really low. My advice would be to expand your god pool, first of all. But you don't need to first pick or prioritize your pick here if you still have other gods open. Like if they can't ban everything. Also, I would say in lower... Like, the lower the level, the more important comfort is. So if you don't know what you're doing, like you don't really have thought about the comp and you're just rolling with it, you can just pick whatever you want to pick. Audio, let's say. You can just pick it here. Although audio gets counter banned. Or counter picked very easily. So audio is pretty bad to pick early. Like audio you want to last pick. Or you don't pick it at all. But I'll just pick, like, let's say decent support. Okay, Qingshan. Qingshan pretty decent, not too great, not too bad. Kinda does whatever he can. Not first week worthy by any means. But let's say you wanna play Qingshan and it's the only god you can play, you can pick him now. Because it's not too risky. But ideally you don't want to pick it right now. Because, like, if they don't know you're playing Qingshan and they don't prioritize picking or banning the Qingshan, which they shouldn't if they know, then you can just leave it open and pick something high priority. Like maybe a good mid laner like Persephone or whatever you want to pick. Maybe a good jungler, maybe a good solo laner, I don't know. So, to answer your question, if you're in a community league where you might have a lot of people who only have 2 or 3 comfortable picks, should you try to get them first? No. Well, first of all, expand your god pool. But if you can't expand your god pool because you don't have a lot of time, don't pick it early because there are gonna be... I mean, dude, why do you have to ask this question? I guess I would still say no, but if you don't know what else you are gonna pick, then you might as well pick it. And I would say, especially, like, the lower the level, the more important comfort picks become. Because picking a high priority god like Persephone is not really useful if you don't know how to play it. So you might as well just pick your audio or whatever you want to pick. Because priority is a relative, and maybe something is high priority to you, but it isn't to the enemy. Does that answer your question, Moose? Yes, okay. I kinda already went over the idea of this game for Obey. I guess I already went over the idea for Radiance as well. It's kinda annoying. Okay, I have a question. Nice. So, Radiance, like, okay, so the gods banned first in the first rotation: Amaterasu, Nemesis, Cupid, Set, Hercules, Umoja. Radiance pick Rama, Obey pick the Sobek, which is a flex, and they pick Ra. Radiant responds with Persephone, very strong pick, and Cerberus, a flex pick and a counter to Ra. Obey responds with Jingwei, very strong hunter. It doesn't reveal where Sobek is going yet. It's very safe in lane at all points. It's decent late game, and it's very safe against Cerberus because you can fly out of the ult. So Cerberus wants to counter the Ra. And then Radiance ban Osiris and Erlang Shen. doesn't Radiance want to leave those gods open? Because both of these gods are very strong against Ra. And now that they banned it, obviously they can't pick it anymore. Why did Radiance ban Erlang Shen and Osiris? Kind of a tricky question. Multiple reasons. Okay. It's a good start. They are missing a tank and physical damage. That's number one. It's absolutely correct. They both have a different reason for being banned as well. One might be more obvious than the other. Well, I mean, I guess they're similar in a way. Sino is also on Erlang Shen. So, are you saying Radiance is doing Obey a favor by banning Sino's meme pics? Osiris, so you can... Osiris, I guess you can preset the AoE stun when the sub goes to ult. Cerberus becomes CC immune in his ult, so you can ult the Osiris stun. Anyone got stunned. Okay, we got one reason. We said they are missing a tank and physical damage, which is part of it, definitely. Erlang has great setup for Ra. Correct, it's number 2. There's at least one more reason why they're banning Osiris. Just annoying divers. Yes, but more than just annoying divers. Osiris can win at Ra. Yeah, Mystic, I think you're misunderstanding because Radiance is the one that banned Erlang and Osiris, not Obey. So that was my question. Doesn't Radiance want to leave Osiris and Erlang open because I want to run at Ra themselves? Oh, Osiris can run at Rama. Yeah, pretty much. So, what you said was all correct except Fizzy, I'm sorry. Because you can ult the Cerberus-stun, or the Osiris-stun. But, obvious reason, which Mu said, they are missing a tank and they are missing physical damage. Erlang is a bit tanky, not that tanky, but has a lot of damage. Osiris is quite tanky and has some damage, but not as much as Erlang. Both of these are flex picks, so you can still, like, you don't know if they have a jungler. Well, you know they don't have a jungler, but you don't know if they have you don't know if they have a support or a solo laner yet because they picked Sobek, which is a flex. So you are banning the Erlang, which is a flex support solo jungle, but not so much solo, more jungle support. And you are banning the Osiris, which is a flex solo jungle, because Sino is playing and he plays a lot of Warriors jungle. So you know you are banning something effective. You know they need physical damage, which you are banning out with both picks. Erlang has a very good setup with the Ra, which is a scary combo against Persephone. Because Erlang has a good matchup into Persephone as well. And the Osiris can run at the Rama and Persephone. And if you... Like, if you go... Oh, I didn't mean to play. If you go a bit deeper... Like, if you look at the draft now... Imagine if Obey has, instead of the Arachne, has an Erlang Shen. Then I don't see how Persephone or Rama are ever gonna survive any team fight. Because Erlang Shen is gonna dive in, Thor is gonna dunk on them, Ra is gonna snipe them from across the team fight. So they were kind of thinking ahead as well, I would say. I'm thinking if they have any more dive on the Obey comp, which is still drafted, but not as scary and more easily countered with the Arachne. But if they have more dive, like Erlang Shen would, then you're gonna have a lot of trouble making your carry survive. And even if you win a team fight, if Rama and Persephone die and Susanna dies as well, then you can't really get anything of the team fight because Cerberus and Wukong are not gonna do anything. So if you just kill the carries, then who cares if you win a team fight? Which of those two drafts would you say is better? I'm gonna say, which of those two drafts do you guys think is better? And why? Because that's actually a good question. Actually, no. I'm gonna ask that question here because this draft is interesting. You like Radiance's draft more? Yeah, I agree. I think Obey has a good comp and a good idea of diving and like setting up for the Raw Snipe with the Thor and the Sobek. But I think the Cerberus going on top of the Wa and the Susano diving the Wa is just going to be too much for them to handle. I also think the issue is, or a big part of the issue is that Rama has so much pressure against Jingwei and like so much time to do anything in between the waves. You need to be careful for invades over there at all times if the jungler is not close. You do have pressure in mid as Obey because you have Ra, Arachne, and Sobek, which, except the Sobek, like just Ra by itself is almost always gonna have pressure. Persephone, early game pressure, not that great until she gets a few levels and a few items. But, so Rama has pressure, Obey has pressure in middle, but the issue with the pressure in middle is that if you try to invade, Cerberus, Persephone have a lot of kill potential with the ult combos on the Ra and on the Arachne. More so on the Ra, because Arachne can ult out. But if you Cerberus ult the Ra into a Persephone ult, it's always going to be a kill if you can get it off. And on top of that, you have a Susano who is able to dive the Ra as well. So the 3v3 in middle is dangerous for Obey if they try to push their lead, so they can't really invade there either. And in solo lane, you have Wukong versus Thor, which is, I don't know, I don't play solo lane, but I would imagine it's pretty even. Wukong probably has a bit better wave clear, and Thor has a bit more pressure, like kill potential pressure. But I would say overall, Radiance is the better draft. Radiance is super safe. Yeah. Like all of their gods have pretty good clear. Except Persephone until she gets a few items. So, now, Moose's question. Which draft do you think is better? And why? Rama, Wa, Thor, Sobek, Nike versus Amaterasu, Fafnir, Heimdall, Merlin, and Susano. Sanguine too easy. Why? It's too OP. Is it? Amaterasu is strong. Merlin is strong. But Rama, Sobek, Thor. United is safer. But is it better? I don't think United is safer into Sanguine. Obviously, disregarding the team names on the top, just looking at the draft and how the gods play into each other, not looking at player skill. The Sobek Rama is really dangerous in the early game. That's true. Because if you are really, like, not so much at SPL level, but lower levels, if you are really the better player, then you can just pick whatever you want and still win the game. but the higher level and the closer your skill is, the more drafting becomes important. And you can get an advantage or a disadvantage just by having the better draft, despite being better or worse players. But even... Wait, what? Oh, the Fafnir needs time, but even after the time, Rama still gets super strong. I would actually agree with Moose. And although comparisons like that are valid, but you need to look at more than 1v1 matchups. You can do it in dual lane and you can do it in solo lane, but junglers, supports, and mids are never really gonna have a 1v1. And you need to look at how junglers counter mid laners and how mid laners match up into the supports and things like that. And also how the ADCs match into the team fight comps and things like that. Torva, yeah, that's true. I just don't see United comp actually executing correctly into them. Are you talking about because of the comp, or are you talking about the player skill? How much Susanna is too much dive threat? I would say United has the better draft, but it's close. Because looking at the lane matchups, Rama doesn't have the best matchup into Heim, but he's still gonna get pressure because it's Rama and he gets pressure all the time. Rasa Bektor in the 3v3 in mid lane are gonna have... I don't know, it's kind of equal because Merlin, Susano, Fafnir also have really good clear. And Nike... But actually... Yeah, and Nike Amaterasu is kind of whatever. Early game in solo lane doesn't matter too much. But then if you look at the team fights in this draft, I am very worried as Sanguine about having a Thor dive on Heim or on Merlin. Merlin doesn't have CC immunity, so that's an easy target for a Thor Ra combo. And the Heim and the Heim also doesn't have the best matchup into Thor. You can ult the Thor away from you, of course, but Thor has CC immunity in a spin, which makes him decent enough to stick to the Heim. And you can, of course, also Thor Ra combo the Heimdall. You do have some peel with the Fafnir, but both Fafnir and Amaterasu are more gods that want to dive instead of peeling for your own backline. Upgraded Ankh will suffice. It's good against the healing, but it doesn't really do anything if you get Thor ulted into Ra ulted. And while Nike, somebody I think mistake said Nike gets shred too easily. Well, it is true. I think you have more damage output in burst as United. So if you can get your damage off with the Ra snipe, with Rama stim, and with the Thor burst, then your Nike doesn't need to survive for too long. She just needs to soak more damage than the Fafnir does. I'm talking about a shield melt on Nike. You mean Sunder. Sunder is an issue against Nike. Ankh does it too, yeah, but Ankh only does 50% and Sunder does 100. It's true though that you can build Ankh and counter the one, kinda counter the Nike as well. But it's 2 relics in 1. I mean, not really. But anyway, I think United has the better comp by a little bit, but it's very execution heavy. So if you make too many mistakes, then you don't you can't win the team fight anymore because you need to hit the Torult, you need to hit the wild of the Tor ult or Tor wall, whatever you use as setup, maybe the Sobek plug if you are good enough. The only engage on the back is the Tor and the Nike. Nike can jump in and ult and be annoying. And you can Tor and Nike go in, and then you have Wa snipes and Wama snipes. Everyone snipes on the enemy backline, and Sobek can help peel for your backline. They're only getting the tanks with Torwall Sobek plug. I mean, yeah, but you're gonna ult in as Tor. Nike blink ult. No, because you blink jump ult. And then if the backline, like the Sanguine backline in this case, falls back too far, then you can try to shred the Sanguine front line because the backline is too far away to help at this point. They still have a Wama. Yeah, I think they're going to be fine against the front line. Actually, I haven't. Let's see. Let's do another comp. This is fun. I haven't looked at any of the other comps, but we can figure it out. Okay. So, are these the same bands? I think they are the same bands. Oh, yeah, they are. Okay. So, same bands in the first rotation at least. Rama, Sobekheim. Still have a Rama. United has a super hard draft to use. Yeah. I think it's better if you can get the execution off, but it's obviously everybody's human and you're gonna make mistakes. But just looking at the draft, I think it's better overall. But of course, if everyone's perfect, you just pick Cerberus and hit every stun ever. It's not realistically going to be executed correctly into Sanguine. Does it? I don't think it needs to be perfect. I just think that the United engage is better than Sanguine. Because Sanguine engage is going to be a what, like a Susano ult. Fafnir jumping in and transforming. But if you are transforming into in the middle of the enemy team, you're going to get shredded too easily. And then Amaterasu can engage as well, which is probably your best bet. I don't think Sanguine have any intention of engaging. They're probably not. They're more of a counter-engage team. But even then, I think the United engage is better than the Sanguine counter-engage. We are leaving the teams out of the equation. Yeah, this is just looking at team comps, not looking at player skill. Yeah, Mystic is just looking at like how hard it is to engage and how what the Sanguine team comps wants to do. But yeah, I think United has a better engage than Sanguine has counter engage still. The main issue I have is that you kind of want to be in dragon form as Fafnir already when you get engaged on. Because if you are transforming in the middle of the engage, by the time you are finished transforming, it might be too late already. Where is the second team comp? So they United picks Rama. Sanguine picks Sobekheim. And actually, I have two questions. First of all, so Rama gets first pick by United. And then Sanguine picks Sobekheim. Why would Sanguine pick the Heim second pick, where they picked it now, instead of picking it third pick before the bans, while they know that Sanguine or United, is not gonna pick the Heim anyway, second or third pick, because they already have the Rama, and obviously they're not gonna pick Rama Heim in the same comp. So why can't Sanguine just get another pick, second pick, and then third pick the Heimdall instead? Don't want to reveal the art too early to force them to focus Heim. You can't really focus the Heim. I mean, you can try, but Heim is very safe because you have the crystals and you can ult out as well. And you have the slow / knock up. If you really need it as well, you have a lot of self peel. Arthur has more counters than Heim. Yeah, Mystics is correct. You know that they are not gonna pick Heim, but maybe you don't know what you want yet, and you can just pick the Heim very safe hunter overall, not really too risky. So you don't want to you don't want to show the rest of your comp while Heim is pretty safe overall. Is the main reason why it's fine to pick it here. Was that a game 3? No. Okay, let's do another one. One more. So, let's look. What was Sobek? No game 3 here. Damn it. So this game is very similar to this draft. So Heim first pick in both games. Hebo Cerberus first pick by Sanguine in both games. Sut Cthulhu was also picked again. Yes, Sut Cthulhu picked by PK as well. Anhur picked as well, same as game 1. But now they banned King Arthur and Amaterasu. And now Sanguine actually gets the Erlang Shen, which they banned over here. Yeah, Erlang Shen horse. So they get the Erlang Shen. Where was it? 140. They get the Erlang Shen, Camel's Bacchus again, and they pick Nike. And Sugiyama was banned for Sanguine to counter the QVO. I can't think of a question. An original question. I mean, PK's objective might be pretty obvious. It's basically, it's very similar to game 1. But what was game 2? Don't really look at game 2, I don't remember. This is actually the same draft again. Oh my god. Stop picking the same stuff. Okay, let's do another one. This isn't the best. United obey. Okay. um. Who gets pressure in mid lane? 3v3. Janus, Sobek, Fenrir? Or Osiris, Isis, Capri? That's a good question as well, Moose. I like that. United. Why I thought Isis was so good early game. Why does United get pressure? We're talking about a mid 3v3 by the way, so you're like level 5 to level 10 roughly. If she doesn't have an easy way to die, like say a Fenrir or a Sobek, it just plucks you if you can hit it, of course. But yeah, Mystic is right. 1v1, Janus is gonna get outcleared by Isis because the Wind Gust. But once Fenrir and Sobek are there, they can easily stop the Isis from clearing, and if you step up too far, you can interrupt the Wind Gust and you can just kill her because Fenrir has a good matchup into Isis. And Sobek can also just pluck her out of the Wind Gust. So it's not because you have the pressure in the 1v1 that you're always gonna have the pressure in the 3v3. If we can ult a pluck, yeah, but then you're using the ult. So trading a Sobek block for an Capri ult is still in favor of United. She's going to struggle to keep her beats up in Diana Sobek. Can also easily focus out the Capri instead. Yeah. Obviously, Isis is going to be the prime target because she doesn't have a CC immune ult. So you need to beat and use the Capri ult to get out. But if you are forcing those two by just a Fenrir ult, well, first you force the beats and then you force the Capri ult next ult. But then you're gonna have a lot of pressure with Sobek. Let's look at game 2. Okay, so Obey picked Kukulkan. I think everyone can see that this draft is kind of based around the Kukulkan, where you want to cage them in, ult them, Erlangshan ult, taunt them into the Kukulkan ult. Now I'm gonna ask Moose's question. How does United stop that from happening? Like, how does United prevent Cupid, Janus, and maybe even Bastet from getting Erlangshan ult into Kukulkan ulted, or Odin stun, Odin ult into being caged and dying? How does United prevent that? Not very easily. I mean, it's not easy. Janus can portal. But he can only portal a wall if the wall is in the Odin cage. You need to dive back. One is going to live next to Cuckoo for the game. Yeah, pretty much. Stopping 3 warriors from running at your carries is very difficult. But you can just Bastet jump in on the Kukulkan and knock when you ult on top of the Kukulkan. And then if you can just make the Kukulkan ult defensively to save himself, then you are preventing Kukulkan from ulting your carries when they are fighting the warriors. Stick close to walls to get out with Janus ult. Yeah, you need to, obviously as Janus, you always want to stay close to walls so you have your portal to get out. But you don't always have the option, but you should always try to position yourself so you're close to walls as Janus. And another thing is Janus can escape with portals to be sneaky. And Cupid has some decent self peel. If Cupid gets Odin Cage, he's probably gonna die. But if you can ult the Odin and hard bomb him to stun him, and you have a pretty long range dash, then you can be fine as well. So what Cupid and Janus need to do in this team comp is try to one peel for each other, as you always should do as mid ADC. But you're not gonna have 3 warriors running at you, because one of them will be with the backline to peel. And it's probably gonna be Amaterasu, I would say, while Odin Erlang jump in. Team fights are just going to be 2v3s. Yeah, that's most team fights. Because you're always gonna have your 2 backliners and 1 frontliner fighting the enemy jungler and 1 enemy frontliner. In both ways. Yeah, this is a good example of team fights in the current meta. Because what will happen is Cupid, Janus, and Sobek are gonna stay back, and they are gonna be dove by Erlang and Odin. And Bastet and Guan Yu are gonna dive the Rama and the Kukulkan, who are gonna be helped by the Amaterasu. And the way you win a team fight in this scenario is like whichever 2v3. Obviously, the 3 people are in favor. So whichever 2v3 is decided first can go help the rest of the team, and then they win the team fight like that. Because it doesn't happen very often that you win the 2v3 as the 2 players. If they manage to get a Janus ult and then all run onto Kukulkan, they can survive the remaining 5 with teams. Oh my god. Hunters are too scary to dive all the way. It depends on the hunter. This game, you can't dive the hunters at all, because Rama is just gonna go up in the air and buy way too much time. So you need to go on the Kukulkan. And Cupid can also self-peel. Self-peel very well with Cupid ult and hard bomb. And then a dash as well, obviously. Are they designed to... And I guess they are. In a way, sure. I'll give it to you. Okay, one more. I'm addicted. Ooh, Poseidon audio. Spicy. War first pick. Amaterasu Cupid. Sobek Rama. Erlang audio. Achilles Thor. Poseidon. How does Obey prevent Poseidon from dying on cooldown? By being dove by the entire United team? Or do they let it happen and do they try to kill United in return while they are diving the Poseidon? Not sure saving Poseidon is the priority. Then what is? Cupid hold on to Poseidon, so if Thor ults, he can't use his hammer to kill. I'm 99% sure you can still use the hammer, but you can't teleport to it if you're crippled. I'm not 100% sure, but like 99. Erlang could focus on peeling for Poseidon with the taunt while Amaterasu and Cupid counter dive and try to insta-kill the Ra. He's there to control the jungle with Whirlpool. If you're just picking Poseidon for the Whirlpool, I think you can pick something else. I think the United dive is so heavy that you don't have the option to counter dive them. Because all Ra wants to do is Ra ult off the Thor ult. And if you kill him after that, I don't think he cares too much. Because if you can kill the Poseidon before he gets his Kraken off, it's already a big victory. And if you try to dive the Rama, he's just gonna go up in the air. Rama Achilles Survey can't move with the Poseidon Tree in the way. That is true, but you can avoid it. Like, you can walk around it. And most of the time, you're not gonna... If you put in a choke point, you can wait with the engage, because it doesn't last that long. And if it's in a lane, or like an open space, then the Whirlpool is pretty small, relatively, so you can avoid it. Their base is definitely not going to be engaging unless the United gives them too much room. Yeah, I think Obey, like just looking at the Obey comp, ignoring the United comp, Obey has a comp that can dive pretty well with the Erlang Shen and the audio as well. Or you can do both peeling and engaging. And just having a Kraken and a Cupid ult to help the divers. But if you look at the United comp, then I think if Obey tries to dive them, they're just gonna get destroyed. But if you let United go onto you, then you have a lot of counter engage possibilities. If the Thor danks on the Poseidon, you have audio stun. Oops. I did not mean to do that. Where was it? Oh my fucking god. Over here. Yes. So you have the audio stun if the Thor goes on you. Erlang can dive very well, but it can also put out a lot of damage defensively and going on Thor or Achilles. Or maybe just going in the backline alone to disrupt the enemy backline while your team is fighting the divers. Cupid can peel very well, like I said before, for himself or for the mid laner. So Cupid can help, and Amaterasu can also help, or she can try to disrupt the enemy backline. I think, first of all, I think United has a better draft. But I think the way Obey could try to win is letting Thor and Achilles engage. It seems very defensive. Yeah, it is. It's not a defense. I mean, it's kind of defensive with the audio. It's not that defensive, but I think United just went so heavy on engaging that you don't have a choice but to be defensive. But I think the way Obey could win this is letting the Achilles and the Thor engage on the Poseidon or the Cupid, but it's most likely going to be Poseidon because he's more vulnerable. So they engage on the Poseidon, and then you collapse on Thor Achilles, while Amaterasu is delaying Rama enough. So you can kill the Achilles Thor, and then you have, let's say the Poseidon dies, but then you have a 3v4 to try and win the team fight. Although I think it's not very likely that that's gonna happen. I think United has a better draft overall. That is how they could try to win. They need Erlang to peel, but no way Ama solo zones the enemy. Yeah, they need Erlang to peel, and Amaterasu doesn't need to win the fight. She just needs to delay a little bit, not even that much. Because if you are fighting the Achilles Door 2v4, they're gonna die rather quickly. So after they die, then you can go and back up the Amaterasu and try to fight the, let's say, Poseidon dies to the 4v3. You don't see your base surviving the dive without the Erlang. Yeah, you definitely need the Erlang there, because Erlang is the only god with hard CC on demand, like instantly. Except audio if she's in bear form with a stun. But other than that, only Erlang has immediate hard CC. He has a knockup and a taunt. Yeah, that is insane at drafting. Yeah, I think since Baskin and Gino joined, the drafts have been way better. Are there any more questions regarding drafting? Because I think I've basically said everything I wanted to say. Basket and Gino joined like 3. Not Gino, yeah. They joined like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Before that, they had Guy J in. Oops. Or whatever. They had Guy J in ADC and Snoopy support. And Variety in solo. Just making a dumb joke. Fine. Making a dumb joke. Hi, Maestro. Yeah, it's just too late because we're just about to finish. If there are no more questions, at least. Now Maestro can't learn how to draft. Rough. I think you should call a lawyer, Mystic. That's definitely plagiarism. If the team's comfort picks allow some kind of strategy, but a player or two have no comfort picks around that, would you agree on playing a non-comfort one? No. Because forcing somebody on a god they can't play is only gonna be a detriment. And sure, maybe it fits the team comp, but if it fits the team comp and the guy misplays all the time because he's not comfortable, then what is the point in making him play X-God? And you might as well just have a comp with 4 gods, and then just having the one guy being something that fits like half and is comfortable for him, so he can play it well. You aren't going to get what the god brings because they can't play it. There's no point, exactly. It's better to. What is this? It's better to play something you're comfortable on that kind of fits the draft than playing the perfect god that you can't play. You do play a lot of physical gods, I can tell. Why don't you like these gods?